Good day. It's great to be here. I've been with Microsoft for about 15 years now, and I've had this role on the Azure team for about 4 hours. Not kidding. We just announced this morning. But previously, my team was very focused on application development, planning, strategy, and partners as well. And now we're taking my team to expand across Azure. So I was very excited to be here today and meet with all of you. So, if you've been following Microsoft for a while, all right, so if you have been listening to what we've been talking about for the past 2 years or so, it's really focused on this idea of digital transformation. We believe this is something that's driving the way that organizations engage with their employees and their customers and change the way that they build their products and change the way they manage their operations. We don't need to look far to really look for evidence of this. By 2020, it's forecasted that over 1 million devices will connect to the internet every hour. That creates a huge amount of data and some opportunities for very interesting relationships between the people using those devices and the devices themselves. If you look at the average age of a S&P 500 company, it's forecasted to be 12 years by the year 2020. In 1960, the average age of an S&P 500 company was 60 years. So there's a huge shift in the way and the velocity that organizations are moving. And then by 2025, it's forecasted that about 60% of computing will be in the public cloud. Great news for our public cloud business. But note that about 40% of computing will still be on premises. And so how can we best take advantage of this dual and this hybrid opportunity? There's a huge range of technologies, architectural practices and approaches, and IT policies that have come in place over the past couple of years to help organizations deal with this digital transformation. There's truly never been a more exciting time, I think, to be in this industry. And that's where we are positioned as Microsoft to help organizations through this. Now, when we talk to customers today, one of the things we hear commonly is that they're totally overwhelmed by this rate of change. IT professionals and developers feel pressure to constantly stay up to speed with these new technologies and look for ways to leverage them in their organizations. Organizations themselves are looking at ways to best exploit these new technologies to increase revenue and profitability. There's a massive amount of change, and there's a lot of stress in the system because of that. And we think that this is at the root of what creates the opportunity for you as partners and for us as a cloud vendor. And so our focus is not simply on creating a great set of enterprise services that are highly scalable, secure, and highly reliable. We know that's not enough. We need to have a very strong focus on actually making customers successful in their journey to the cloud by using those services. And so this is the core of our opportunity. Now, we believe we can do that by focusing on 4 main areas that we think really differentiate our cloud platform from others. The first is productivity. We have a great set of well-engineered tools and resources for IT professionals and developers to build applications in the cloud. We need to be able to support organizations whether they want to run their applications in the public cloud or whether they want to take advantage of their on-premises infrastructure and do it in a very seamless way. And this is the notion of hybrid where we think we are very, very differentiated. Intelligence is really big. I think many of you who have probably talked to customers recently have probably asked about this whole trend around AI. How can they build bots? How can they make their applications more engaging and more interactive? And we need to be delivering a set of services that provides the ability for them to do that. And then finally, none of this matters unless we deliver this in a very trusted way. Trust is very foundational to the way that we engineer our cloud services, and we need to provide the tools to customers to be able to make their own applications trusted. So by engaging in these 4 areas over the past couple of years, we've managed to win over 90% of the Fortune 500 companies onto Azure in some way or shape or form. But we're also seeing great examples of customers of many different sizes. I wanted to do a quick show of hands. How many of you are currently offering Azure-based solutions through CSP? Okay, great. So I think most of you in the audience. So what I wanted to do is do a very quick overview of some of the core technologies behind Azure, and then really flip over to some of the newer things that we're making available to enable partners such as yourselves who are already delivering Azure solutions, make them even more productive. So when it comes to productivity, we offer a great integrated set of tools. Many customers know us as a .NET and a Windows-based tooling company. That has really changed over the past couple of years. We now have tools that support building any application on any platform. Multiple languages like Node.js, Java, and so forth. Collaboration tools for organizations really to work together across those diverse development teams, no matter what technology or platform they're building for. To build those applications, many developers do not start from scratch today. They want to start with a predefined set of services that they can leverage, and we offer that in spades when it comes to Azure. If you're taking on new application architectures like serverless, we have great technologies like Azure Functions. If you want to work with the containers, we have a Kubernetes-based container management system that we provide available. And then if you're looking to connect with existing applications, we have things like Logic Apps that offer hundreds of connectors to different applications like Salesforce and LinkedIn and so forth to be able to integrate that data with your application. And then finally, we have a great set of management tools, both for IT pros and developers, that provide a single point of view into your application running, all the way down to the underlying infrastructure. The second main focus that we have is on hybrid. Now, hybrid isn't just about creating a consistent platform to build on. It's about looking at the continuum of what it takes to deliver a solution, all the way from identity management to having a common data platform to having great security management tools that are consistent whether you're building a cloud application or whether you're building on-premise. Core to that strategy is something that we announced recently called Azure Stack. Azure Stack is the software of Azure running in a small footprint hybrid, small footprint hardware solution. It allows customers to be able to run Azure effectively in their own data centers. We're seeing a couple of great cases for this. One is where customers have a disconnected environment or a semi-connected environment. We have a customer that's a large cruise ship line. They're actually putting an Azure Stack-based application on the cruise ships because they're not always connected to the internet. Secondly, we're seeing a lot of customers looking to meet regulatory requirements. So this is where they want to make sure they can run Azure in a region where we don't actually physically have a data center. It allows them to take advantage of all the great development capabilities that Azure offers. And then finally, we are seeing customers come to us and say, I love what you have in Azure, but I need to run that application on my data center because I have existing assets, like a mainframe, for example, and I want to run those applications in close proximity to my mainframe. That's another great scenario for Azure Stack that we're seeing. So this is now available from many of our hardware OEMs like Dell and HP that you can go and buy as a totally integrated software and hardware system. Intelligence is, again, a big topic of conversation with our customers. We offer the ability to add intelligence to applications really in two ways. We have a great set of developer services and APIs that combine the multiple decades of research we have into things like computer vision, computer language understanding, into very, very simple to use APIs that can be added to applications to enhance them. Also, if developers want to go more deeply, or if data scientists want to build custom algorithms, we have a great layer of data services that help you manage massive amounts of data, reason over them, derive insights, and then build intelligent algorithms and machine learning models based off that as well. So we have a great comprehensive solution for AI. And then finally, from a trust perspective, we are really leading in this compared to other cloud vendors. We have the most number of certifications by industry, by geographical area, by regional area. So we have a great coverage when it comes to this, and we're working with many of these standards bodies, both at the industry level and at the federal level, to make sure that we're evolving those standards in a great way. We run Azure right now in 42 regions around the world. That's more than Google and AWS combined. These are 300-mile apart regions, so they're set up to handle multiple disaster recovery scenarios. And it's a great way for organizations to keep their data where they need to keep it. And then from a security perspective, we offer something called Azure Security Center to bring together and help simplify the task of securing your cloud infrastructure. It allows you to apply best practices that we've developed through our many, many years of security research onto your applications. It allows you to detect attacks and react to them very quickly in the event that they do occur, and then remediate issues that come from that. So this is very foundational to what we have. Now, as you see, we have a lot of different services, and over the past couple of years, customers have come to us and said, that's great, but where do I get started? So we took a step back and we said, what are the key scenarios that the cloud really enables for customers where we can differentiate ourselves? And from that, we generated something called the Azure 10 Solutions. This content is available on the website right now. We have great partner-facing content to deliver on these solutions as well, application architecture guidance, how to go to market with these solutions. But it's a really great way to simplify all the services in Azure and make them very consumable from a customer scenario perspective. So I'd encourage you to check out azure.com and look at solutions to get an idea of where we can really add value in this area. So the path to Azure. We've had a ton of interest over the past 12 months of customers looking to migrate their applications to Azure. So I wanted to spend a bit of time to share some of the new innovations we have in this area to really help with that. We believe this interest is really being driven by a couple of major factors in talking to customers. The first is cost model transformation. A lot of customers are switching from more of a CapEx-based model to an OpEx-based model. They're investing in more data center modernization, adding new and upgraded servers, and they're taking a step back and they're saying, is this really the right direction, for us? Or do we need to have a more agile way to be able to manage our IT infrastructure in more of a pay-as-you-go manner? And so that's a big driver. Security and compliance is huge here. As the cost of regulation goes up in terms of all the changes that are happening with things like GDPR in Europe, as the threat of security continues to evolve and becomes a very difficult thing to manage, organizations are struggling to even find the talent that it takes to be able to secure their infrastructure. And so they're coming to us and they're saying, wow, we think that maybe you can do a better job. And this is the case with many of our cloud competitors as well. The third is business agility. So looking at the force of digital transformation, people are looking to move more quickly. Being able to take the skills that they have today and evolve them to be more agile, be able to leverage the services that we provide in Azure to move more quickly is fundamental to that. And then many organizations have been investing in large data centers are now coming up for renewal, and large software contracts that are coming up for renewal as well. And they're taking a hard look at the trends in the cloud ecosystem. They're saying, do we really want to sign up for another couple of years of a data center lease or another software contract that's multiple years in length? Or do we want to maybe pick a different direction that's going to allow more flexibility and more agility for us to go in the future? So to ease the task of migration, we've tried to simplify it down into 3 steps. The first is around discovery. This is around assessing and looking at what you have today in your current assets, looking at what the cost of moving those assets to the cloud will look like, and then building a plan about what makes sense to move and what makes sense to keep on premise. The second phase is migration. And so we provided a set of tools to make this migration step easy, whether it's moving your VM infrastructure or moving your databases to the cloud, which I'll talk about in a second. And then finally, once you move to the cloud, it's important to keep an eye on what those costs actually look like. And so what we typically see as a pattern with customers is that they move to the cloud, their costs spike, and then they optimize, then it goes over to a steady state over time. And so we provided a set of tools to help them manage that, which I'll cover in just a moment. So Azure Migrate is a tool that we created and we launched this past fall. It is a first-party tool to help customers understand how best to move to the cloud. What it does is effectively scans your internal infrastructure. It looks at VM utilization, whether it's CPU utilization, memory utilization, or disk or network. And then based on the information, it recommends the type of VMs that you're going to need when you move to Azure. It can also estimate the cost that you're going to pay as part of those VMs, so you can go ahead and calculate your total cost of ownership and the ROI of making that investment. Once you're ready to move, it provides automated migration support as well to make that migration step very easy. So today, this offering works not only with bare metal, but also with Hyper-V-based infrastructure, and also with VMware-based infrastructure as well, which is huge for many of our customers. And we take an agent-based approach where we don't require any agents. We actually look at the telemetry coming out of vSphere, we scan that, and we use that to recommend migration steps. So moving infrastructure is one thing, but when it comes to applications, if it doesn't have a database, it probably isn't that meaningful of an application. So we've also provided some great tooling to help out with migrating databases as well. Now, key to this is something we call the Azure SQL Managed Instance, which is a new offering that we have as of last fall. We've always had support for a SQL Server-based solution in the cloud. The challenge historically has been is that it wasn't 100% compatible with our on-premise SQL Server database. So many customers that tried to move found that they didn't have the right support or features in the cloud version to be able to move those applications successfully. So we've resolved that. Azure SQL Managed Instance is now 100% compatible with the on-premise version of SQL Server. So all your applications can move without any code changes. All of your databases can move without any code changes, which is actually very, very huge, and a lot of customers are very excited about finally being able to do this. Now, moving to the cloud would be nothing if there weren't economic advantages to do so. If there's one thing to remember from this presentation, it is that there is no more cost-efficient way to run Windows Server in a public cloud than Azure. And we've done that through 2 major offerings that we've had over the past 6 months. The first is something called the Azure Hybrid Benefit. And so for organizations that already have Windows Server or SQL Server licenses, they don't have to pay again for those licenses when they buy VMs from us. Typically, when we price our VMs, we charge for the underlying compute, of course, to run the VMs, and we charge for a software license fee on top of that. by using this Azure hybrid use benefit, they don't need to pay that license fee, which significantly reduces the cost of the VMs compared to what you see in the pay-as-you-go rates on our website by about 40%. The second thing we've done is release something called Azure Reserved Instance. This is the notion of committing to using a VM for a 1 to 3 year period, and then us giving you a discount based on that commitment. So combining the hybrid benefit with the reserved instance, you're looking at about an 82% savings off our traditional pay-as-you-go rates that we publish on the website. So huge benefits here for customers looking to move to the cloud. And a lot of customers have come to us now and said, wow, now this is the time to do it. This is the compelling moment to make it happen. So once you're in the cloud, as I mentioned, it's important to manage your ongoing costs. To help with that, we acquired a company late last year called Cloudin. And what they offer is the ability to get a lot of visibility into the resources you're using, to be able to manage those costs, to be able to set budgets, maybe by departments within your organization, and let those departments manage those budgets. And this is something we're making free to all our enterprise agreement customers. So it's a huge benefit for organizations to be able to manage their costs as they move. So all in all, we're really trying to remove barriers to migration. And we're doing that really across the board from the Migrate tool all the way to the hybrid benefit and some other things which I haven't spoken about here, like Azure Data Box, which is actually a physical piece of hardware. You can load up with data, send to us, and we'll load that into the cloud as well. So great set of resources for you as partners to work with your customers in the event customers are looking to migrate to the cloud. All right, let's talk about the partner opportunity for a second. Now, I could show you many slides with tons of stats, with charts that all go up and to the right. So when we look at our partners around Azure, what we find is that for every dollar in Azure consumption that we make, we're generating about $5 in partner services. So it's a huge opportunity out there. Why partner with us right now? We've got great momentum in the customer base. We're seeing great growth in our partner base as well. A lot of that growth is actually coming around open source technologies. As I mentioned, people traditionally knew us as a Windows company, but we've seen massive growth in open source. We have over 40% of VMs in Azure running on Linux right now, which is something that you would have been totally surprised at stretching back a couple of years ago. We have a complete platform for you to build on, from infrastructure as a service to platform as a service. Lots of great ways to combine that into managed solutions. And then we're making major investments. We have $600 million plus in our partner GTMs this year. And we've changed our co-sell model to enable our field to be compensated based on the size of partner deals. And we're going to continue to invest and continue to innovate in this area, and we're very committed to it. So going over some of the programs and resources, since many of you are CSPs today, I'll try to go over this fairly quickly. But CSP is the path into partnering with Azure. The notion of CSP is different from what we offer in Office in that it's really about enabling partners to build managed services on top of Azure as opposed to simply just reselling Office 365 seats or licenses. And that's where we're really focused. So as a CSP, you can go ahead and manage the customer subscriptions for cloud. You can build packages that combine your services with our services and price them accordingly. You can then manage those after you place orders for Microsoft. And then you can offer a single solution to customers to build them in a unified way. So it's a great way for customers to enjoy an integrated solution that combines your services with ours. There are two models to CSP. One is direct and one is indirect. In the direct model, the partner is responsible for providing the technical support and the billing support for organizations. So what we find is that many of our value-added resellers don't want to get into that business. They actually want to be able to simplify and really just focus on the customer value. And so to enable that, we provided a second model, which is called the CSP indirect model. And in that model, what you would do as a value-added reseller is work with something called an indirect provider. That indirect provider would take care of the billing, take care of the technical support, and then you would focus on the customer relationship and building those packages in a very compelling way for those customers. So it's a much lower bar, a much easier way to kind of get into selling the cloud with Microsoft. In terms of how we talk to customers about CSP, since customers have many ways that they can buy Azure, what we recommend to go to CSP is for customers that are really looking for that end-to-end experience. They may already have a relationship with our partners today. We want to be able to allow our partners to continue that relationship. And they want to provide a way to buy all their services in one bill, not pay a separate bill for their infrastructure with Azure and then a separate bill to their managed service provider. And so we've really enabled that. By contrast, customers that are managing their own IT environments, generally larger organizations, they sometimes want to go ahead and buy directly from our EA, and we just support that model as well. So the kinds of solutions that we see partners offer on CSP really do vary. What we do find is that many partners coming from the world of Office 365 tend to start with solutions that are a little easier to offer and manage. Those could include things like managed backup to the cloud, a disaster recovery as a service, and cloud storage. All of these are very accessible ways to kind of get into the world of Azure and get into the world of CSP. Then building off that, we have customers and partners that then offer things like cloud cost management using the tools we have that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. And then stretching beyond that, we have partners that do offer total custom development solutions too. So we do offer the whole range, and we do see partners being very creative in how they're building these services together. So from a business model standpoint, on top of the margin that partners can earn, we offer these Azure services at a discount to partners, allowing them to set their own price. We do offer a series of incentives and special programs that I wanted to highlight for you. We have a series of consumption-based incentives. This is really to encourage customers not just to sign up for Azure, but actually to consume Azure and to grow their consumption over time. And so to enable that, for direct partners and indirect resellers, we offer an 8% rebate on the Azure services that customers actually consume at the end of the day. And so if a customer signs up for an Azure subscription and they spend, let's say, $1,000 in the first 6 months, you would make 8% of that $1,000 back as a rebate to you after that 6-month period is up. We also offer special incentives around certain geographies, around special programs that we have, and then we also have a customer ad perspective as well, where we are looking to grow our customer base significantly, and we have a special incentive designed to encourage partners to help us with that. On top of that, we have some special time-limited, we have special multi-year offers too. These are very interesting offers where things like a proof of concept scenario where Microsoft will actually pay for the first 2 months of a proof of concept for the costs of the customer's cloud resources in that time frame. After that, if the customer goes forward with the proof of concept, you'll go ahead and start earning revenue based on that. We have special migration campaigns to take advantage of the migration solutions I mentioned earlier in the presentation, and we have some very targeted programs around moving entire data centers as well. So there's lots of different ways to monetize this business and lots of different ways for you to make money there. So where to get started? We have a couple of resources that we've brought together at this URL, microsoftpartnerserverandcloud.com. It brings together a great toolbox that includes a summary of the incentives and offers, the go-to-market resources that we have, the content we have available for you around those core solution areas that we discussed. So it's a great single spot for you to begin to get started with some of these resources. So with that, I'd like to leave you with a final thought, which is that Azure is truly the cloud for all. By focusing on these 4 areas, we believe we're going to be highly differentiated from the other competitors we have in this space, and we are very eager to work with you to help land this message with our customers and look for ways that you can make money, as we do as well. So thank you very much, and I'll open it up for questions.
Can you go back?
Sure. Incentives? Or yeah. So the question was, when will reserved instance pricing be on CSP? The answer I have from the CSP team as of yesterday is very soon. And I'd love to give you a more specific time frame of that. That was the one I was not able to get a specific answer on. But I know that's been a major demand from a lot of our partners is they want to see reserved instance on it because they're seeing so much customer demand for that. And so we're very focused on that. So it's very soon.
Yeah. Is Databox still in preview, and do we have pricing yet?
Databox, I believe, still is in preview, and I don't know if we have pricing or not. If you want to get I can give you my information afterwards, and I can follow up and see exactly where that is. Let's go here first, then. Yeah.
Quick about the reserved instance pricing on CSP. I know there was actually some discussion yesterday about the real push to get like that 70% that's going direct for Advisor or for Azure over to the CSP. If you guys want that to happen, you need to start doing things like that in CSP first before you give it to the customers.
That's great. That's great feedback. Yeah, I think just on the theme of the CSP model, it is a model that's been evolving, right, the past couple of years, and we've been in a situation where we haven't had all Azure services available in CSP kind of at the same time. And so it's been a lagging thing, but I've seen a great recognition from the engineering team over the past couple of months to say we need to be able to make that a dedicated thing as we engineer the product and the new services in the first place, and to be able to address this gap scenario that you're seeing with CSP right now with RI. So great feedback. Thank you.
Hi. Has it gotten easier, or is there an announcement about migrating from direct to CSP? Seems like that's a really involved process.
Yeah, so I'm not aware of any. I'm not aware of anything that we're planning on that front, but it is something I can check on.
I hear rumors that something was coming out in April, but it's been September and then December and then it's not gotten easier. So we have a lot of clients on direct Azure, right? And we want to move them to CSP.
You want to move to CSP, right?
But you have to completely rebuild the environment with downtime.
Yep. So there's no way to simply migrate the
Hundreds of
subscription over or
hours
something
just
like
for a billing thing. So it's not worth it.
that. Okay.
If you wanted to go back a slide or two, the Cloudin and the I had one. Sorry, Cloudin and the Cloudimize, are those free?
So we did sign deals with them to purchase actually some licenses that we are making available to certain customers for migration scenarios. And so we do have a program through our field around that. And I think your partner development manager should know more about the details about how to take advantage of it. If they don't, again, I'll give my contact information. I can definitely connect you to the right folks there.
Did Microsoft buy Cloudin?
So Cloudin, yes.
Yes.
I'm speaking about for Cloudimize. We did have a deal with them around licensing.
So since you bought
for
Cloudin,
organization.
it's because I was also confused about that. It's not free, or it's available for 30 days, or it's not for everyone.
Cloudin is free for our EA customers. We made
Only
it free
EA.
For them. Yeah, that's where we focused on.
Okay. Well, we're focused on CSP, so that's not EA.
Yes, that's fair. Fair. Yeah, let me take a look to see what the current arrangement is with Cloudin in the context of CSP,
Okay,
and
thanks.
make sure we get that information.
Because it's a big area. We buy through Arrow. We're CSP through Arrow, and there's this whole convoluted billing process, and clients are complaining about no visibility into their bills.
Yeah, and that's for CSP overall, or
CSP.
specifically for Cloudin? Okay,
CSP, yeah.
got it.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
I have heard some of these issues.
Because we're excited about Cloudin. Microsoft bought them, so why is it only available in EA?
Yeah, why shouldn't it be available more broadly, right,
Yeah.
for folks? Yeah.
Thanks.
Let me look into that. And I apologize. There's a lot of follow-up questions I have in this. There's a lot I have to learn in this space as I get into it. Yep.
Yes, but this is speaks to the reserved instance too. Is if a customer of mine, for example, if I buy an RI license and I put a customer on it, and they decide for whatever reason to not be my customer anymore, and they want to move on to their own Azure, to move to another, can I move another client onto that RI instance? I mean, it would seem to me there'd be an incentive for me to buy the RI licenses as an MSP and kind of hoard those and kind of divvy those out.
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually don't know what our transferability rules are around RI. I would have to follow up and look into that piece of it. But it's a great scenario, I think, that we need to figure out how to cover. So let me look at that. Yep.
Piggybacking on something that he asked, in those rare instances you have Azure CSP, and in those rare instances that you need to move it to an open instead of the CSP because of the functionalities. Is there a mechanism to do that?
To move from CSP to open?
Yeah.
I don't believe there's any mechanism to do that. I
So
also
you have to redo the whole server? Or?
well, what we're trying to do with CSP is to narrow the gap of things that aren't possible, right? And our services aren't available in CSP. And I know that's where the focus is. And so I don't know if we have a way to kind of move from CSP to open in that context. Again, I would have to look into that piece of it. Does anyone? There's not right now. Yeah.
Rather than us going through the labor of creating that path, like I talked about yesterday. Like we talked about yesterday, CSP is the wave of the future where we're going in terms of developing for our licensed platform. And for us to do things that move away from CSP is probably not going to happen, just to be transparent with you. If you do have something, though, that comes across, if this is a frequent use case that you see, what we're likely to do is take that and make sure that we build it into CSP and accelerate it and prioritize it over other things on the one list that goes towards the CSP, rather than trying to build a reverse migration backwards into a licensing program that, frankly, we're trying to get away from.
Just to give you a point of reference, we do Dynamics Enterprise of finance and operations. And so, we have a client. We had a client on CSP. They had Azure. We did the trial. We worked with Cynics. Joe Gallo is the best. And for whatever reason, the feature sets weren't there in the CSP Azure, and we had to do it in open.
Yeah,
So we didn't want to have to rebuild. We wanted to move the CSP Azure that we already had to open. We didn't have to, rebuild it, the whole thing.
That's the gap that has been existing in the past with CSP that we're working aggressively to narrow that. And again, our future investment is all going to be in that direction.
I mean, changing the subscription out doesn't do it, because we even tried to do that.
Redo it. I mean, it's like a new deployment. Let's take it, do it all over again.
Yeah.
To be transparent, I mean, those are edge cases for us, and I'm happy to take when you run into those kind of situations to elevate those to your PDM and to me and to Shawn and to others, and we'll see if we can work a solution for it. But to build some programmatic way for us in the future to try to do that, that's opposite the direction we're going to go. We want to make
I understand. Can I keep the mic?
I have a quick question. A lot of my engineers complain that we can't move recovery service vaults between subscriptions yet. Is that ever going to be an option?
I'm not sure. I have to look to see exactly what that would be.
Yeah, it's been saying on the site coming soon for about 2 years. So.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we've heard that. The common one is migrating resources between subscriptions is very painful right now. So. Do we have one back there? And then this gentleman up in front.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the same comment there. So if we bring on a client that has EA or open and everything's in there, how do we move them to CSP licensing? If we're moving away from EA and that, which is sort of what I'm hearing in the community.
Yeah.
Let me help you
Yep.
with that. So, can you turn my mic
You can
on?
turn his mic.
Need me to go over here? I don't know why, but here, maybe I'll take that. Thank you. Here, I'll take it. I'm on? Okay, so I don't know why I can't hear it. So, previous role, Shawn, my team looked after CSP development. So
Excellent.
Naren and I are good friends about some of the CSP things being worked. There is an open need to move EA accounts into CSP. It's been recognized for some time. It's been on the roadmap for us to develop for some time as well, but there were other things that took precedent over it, like getting the Azure services in there first. We're to that point now, and the team's actively working on it. The plan right now, and this is not something that I would share broadly, is that it is around the corner. Naren and I are talking about Q4 kind of being the time frame, but we have been surprised in the past where we tried to build it, other things took case in front of it, and we had to wait. But right now, I feel relatively bullish that you'll have that feature on a limited basis sometime in Q4. And by limited, I mean we don't want this deluge and then the tool breaks and all hell breaks loose. What we want to do is we want to take some partners that have accounts that are ready to move over, that are on the EA, and partners have good success with Azure. Let's test it. Let's see how it works and go through that process. And then from that learning, we should be pretty ready to go as we go into next fiscal year. But it is something that we've raised repeatedly, and the BG Naren folks are very aware of it. It's the UST team that runs CSP that's building a lot of the feature set behind that as well. But it is definitely something that's on a high priority list for us. And it's close. I totally agree. With these things, we work in a totally different environment now than we did before, right? We use different resource capabilities, different approaches to how we deploy these types of things, and it's all more of a Scrum model where we look, and the analogy that the UST head engineer gave me a year and a half ago that made it clear for me was, he said, Brent, think about your one list of issues like a big vase, and I'm going to fill it with the big rocks first, the little rocks, then the sand, and then the water. He said, what you've got to help me with is you've got to help me understand what are the big rocks, what are the other things that you consider sand and water, and then as I move the puzzle pieces around and I have an open 2 days worth of dev time or 2 days worth of sprint time that I can apply this, I'll take one of these smaller pieces in while we're working on the big rocks. So it's not that we have this roadmap that we say sequentially this is how we're going to do things. It's going to be, I actually have 2 days freed up, let's grab that feature and throw it in. Now I'm ready for the next big rock. This is a big rock. It's incredibly heavy lifting to make this actually work. And so we had to find the timing around the other big rocks that came in the way, like getting Azure services on there so we could monetize it in the first place. Does that make sense?
Right there.
Yeah, just had a question around CSP and Azure actually, as it relates to nonprofit, right? So they get their $5,000 entitlement, which really transacts as open with the 5x5 code. But obviously, if they're consuming more than the 5,000, right, we're having to essentially sell to those nonprofits via open. Since there's changes on the CSP program with nonprofit that's coming out in the next month or two, for us to be able to transact via CSP to nonprofit, is there intent or is there anything you can share with us about that same concept on the Azure side?
You familiar with that one?
That I don't know yet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know what we're
But you
doing.
can look at what we're doing on the seat-based products. With Office 365 as an example, with the movement towards having NFP SKUs or non-for-profit SKUs on there. It is something that we want to do. I just don't have any information at this point to say when Azure's going to get it.
Got it.
I have a question regarding the nonprofit world. Can you give us any color on what any research you guys have done in terms of what the total addressable market is for nonprofit?
Yeah, I don't know of any research we've done specifically on that in terms of nonprofit revenue opportunities. We obviously do have a large, government sector there and the public sector in general. I think that they really roll up to.
I'm sure
but I
we
don't
can
know
follow up
anything
and
specifically on that.
Yeah, I'm sure we can follow up and get the data. I don't know it off the top of my head, but we do. So we have the 6 big industries that we're going after. Non-for-profit is one of those. Inside of that, I'm sure that data exists. We actually have an internal portal that has all kinds of information that our sellers can use to help with information like that. So we just have to do a little digging. If you'll send us a note, we'll follow up and find it. I'm sure we've got it, but yeah.
Yeah, I have a quick question. This is regarding the Azure sponsorship subscriptions. So like an EDU and not-for-profit, you have Azure sponsorships of usually like $6K or so. It's a mystery about how to actually get those activated in accounts. So is there a process that you're going to put in place so if we have a valid non-for-profit or an EDU that we can actually get the Azure subscription sponsorship activated, and what process we need to go through? Because it seems like nobody really knows, and it's just something that education would do, or if you get through TechSoup, it magically happens, but there seems to be no real standard for it.
Okay, so there's not a common portal that people go to go and activate the code?
There's a common portal activated, but the question is, how do you use which address associated with the CSP, with the customer tenant do you activate it with? What is the process that go to make sure you're using the correct account? How do you make sure the correct user account that basically got validated for the not-for-profit or for the education site, but basically is the user activated? And how do we actually go through the process? Because it's a $6K benefit you give for these guys.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that one. I'll do what I do a lot of times with my team. Is any of the PDMs in the room, you guys run into this? And have you helped a partner with this in the past? No? Okay. All right, fair enough. We'll follow up and find out.
Yeah, I'll put my email back up so you guys have that. And again, with some of these follow-up questions here, please do email me with those, and we'll try to get the right answers for you there.